This is the festival we use for what Indians might call the largest religious gathering on earth. Hello, I'm Adee Siddiqui, and I am on a quest to uncover all of the cultural phenomena that India has lost in the sands of time. And one of those phenomena pertains to the Maha Kumbh Mela, or as it's known in Uttar Pradesh, the biggest spectacle of faith you'll ever see. It means the same thing, really. And of course, as a certified cultural critic, I've done my fair bit of festival hopping, right? Just off the top of my head, I've been to Diwali, Holi, and I think from that I've seen quite a few gatherings, so I know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to the Mahakumbh Mela in Prayagraj, whether you're just looking for a quick dip in the holy waters or something more spiritually profound, it is worth learning that this event isn't necessarily the same as other religious festivals. And so without further ado, let us metaphorically ring one of those temple bells as I uncover ways that the Mahakumbh Mela is very different and, dare I say, problematic. When I was out there for the first time on the banks of the Sangam, living the pilgrim lifestyle, the first confusing thing that I noticed is that the history of this event, and as it turns out everything else about it, insists upon taking you to different realms of understanding to what they would in a normal festival. Rayesh, what do you mean by that? Well, here's how the Mahakumbh Mela's history unfolds. We'll get into the specifics later. The origins of this massive gathering are shrouded in myth and legend, dating back to the churning of the cosmic ocean. According to Hindu mythology, gods and demons fought over a pot, kumbh of the elixir of immortality. During this celestial tug-of-war, drops of the elixir fell at 4 earthly sites, including Prayagraj. Now, I don't know about you, but basing a gathering of millions on a mythological spill seems a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? The first recorded Kumbh Mela dates back to the 7th century CE, described by the Chinese traveller Xuanzang. However, the Mahakumbh Mela, as we know it today, really took shape in the medieval period under the patronage of Akbar. It's interesting how a Mughal emperor played a role in popularizing a Hindu festival, isn't it? Talk about cultural appropriation gone wild. Over the centuries, the Mahakumbh Mela has grown from a relatively small gathering of ascetics to the mammoth event we see today. The British colonial period saw the festival gain more structure and organization, though one could argue it also led to the commercialization we see now. In recent times, the Mahakumbh Mela has become a spectacle of epic proportions, drawing millions of pilgrims and curious onlookers alike. But let's talk about how this event is used, or should I say, misused. The Mahakumbh Mela serves multiple purposes, some spiritual, some social, and some, dare I say, questionable. Primarily, it is a religious gathering where devotees come to bathe in the sacred waters of the Sangam, the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, and the mythical Saraswati rivers. Pilgrims believe that taking a dip here during the festival will cleanse them of their sins and break the cycle of rebirth. Now, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, but doesn't this seem like a bit of a spiritual shortcut? I mean, cramming a lifetime of sins into one holy dip. It is like trying to cram for an exam the night before. It might make you feel better, but does it really work? The Mela is also a massive gathering of sadhis and religious leaders from various sects. They come together to discuss philosophy, perform rituals, and showcase their spiritual prowess. It's like a spiritual Comic-Con, if you will. But instead of cosplaying as superheroes, they're dressed as gods and goddesses. The irony isn't lost on me. In recent years, the Mahakumbh Mela has also become a tourist attraction, drawing visitors from around the world. It's been marketed as a unique cultural experience, a chance to witness the exotic spiritual practices of India. But one has to wonder, at what point does spiritual tourism become exploitation? The government, both state and central, uses the Mela as a showcase of India's organizational capabilities and cultural heritage. It's a chance to flex those administrative muscles and show the world that yes, we can manage millions of people in one place without too much chaos. but is turning a religious gathering into a PR exercise really appropriate? Now, let's dive into the holiness of this event, shall we? The Mahakumbh Mela is considered one of the holiest events in Hinduism. The belief is that during certain astrological alignments, the waters of the Sangam become particularly potent, capable of washing away sins and granting moksha, or liberation, from the cycle of rebirth. The main bathing days, known as Shahi Snan or royal bath, are considered the most auspicious. Pilgrims rush to take a dip in the holy waters, creating a sea of humanity that's both awe-inspiring and, frankly, a bit terrifying. It's like a spiritual mosh pit, if you will. The presence of sadhis and ascetics adds to the perceived holiness of the event. These individuals, with their matted hair, ash-covered bodies, and enigmatic practices, are seen as living embodiments of Hindu spirituality. They're the rock stars of the Mela, drawing crowds wherever they go. But here's where I have to play devil's advocate. In our modern, scientific world, should we still be attributing such mystical properties to what is, essentially, a very polluted river? The Ganga, despite its spiritual significance, is one of the most polluted rivers in the world. So, are we really cleansing our souls, or just exposing ourselves to a cocktail of pollutants? And what about the commercialization of spirituality that we see at the Mela? From branded ashrams to spiritual merchandise, it sometimes feels less like a holy gathering and more like a religious trade fair. Is this really what the ancient sages had in mind? Now, let's weigh the advantages and disadvantages of this massive event, shall we? On the plus side, the Mahakumbh Mela is a remarkable display of faith and devotion. It brings together millions of people in a shared spiritual experience, fostering a sense of community and unity. That's no small feat in our increasingly divided world. The event is also a significant boost to the local economy. It creates jobs, stimulates tourism, and puts Prayagraj on the global map. From a cultural perspective, it's a living museum of Hindu traditions and practices, preserving and showcasing aspects of Indian spirituality that might otherwise be lost to time. The Mela has also forced improvements in infrastructure and urban planning. To accommodate the millions of visitors, authorities have had to upgrade roads, sanitation facilities, and crowd management systems. These improvements often benefit the local population after the Mela is over. But let's not ignore the elephants in the room, shall we? The Mahakumbh Mela poses significant environmental challenges. Millions of people bathing in and around the river lead to increased pollution. The temporary city that springs up to house the pilgrims puts a massive strain on local resources and generates enormous amounts of waste. There are also serious health and safety concerns. With so many people crammed into a relatively small area, the risk of disease outbreaks is high. Crowd management is a constant challenge, with the ever-present risk of stampedes and accidents. The commercialization of the event is another point of contention. While it brings economic benefits, it also risks diluting the spiritual essence of the Mela. When spirituality becomes a commodity, doesn't it lose something in the process? And let's not forget the social issues. The Mela reinforces certain hierarchies within Hinduism, with some sects and individuals given more prominence than others. It's also been criticized for perpetuating superstitions and outdated practices. In a country striving for modernization and social reform, is this the image we want to project to the world? That's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below some of the cultural phenomena that you've encountered and find problematic. I'm Adee Siddiqui. You can follow me on Instagram as Adeesid12, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get lost in the cultural melting pot.